The Chosen just filmed one of its biggest scenes ever, and in today's video, we're going to try to guess exactly what that big scene is. If you're not aware, The Chosen just completed its 4th week of filming for its 4th season of the show, and this week, the director asked for prayers because they're filming a gigantic scene with hundreds of extras, so many people, so many moving parts to this scene or scenes, as well as what is described as having stunt coordinators and animal trainers for horses, Roman horses, that are going to be circling the scene. So there's a lot happening this week. We also get a bunch of other little stuff, but we're going to talk about all of it in today's video. So I would like to issue a spoiler warning right off the bat for those of you who do not want to know what's coming in the upcoming season. That is completely fine, and I completely agree. It is kind of annoying when someone spoils something that you didn't want to know just because you happen to click onto this video. And if you feel that way, then I please suggest that you do not watch this video. Listen to my podcast in the meantime, link down below in the description, or just search up Against the Current, The Chosen on your local listening platform. But with that said, let's go ahead and roll that intro.
Trouble ain't bad if the bad is good.
Trouble ain't bad if the bad is good.
I said trouble ain't bad if the bad is good.
And this week we're going to be discussing days 15 through 19 of filming for The Chosen Season 4. And right off the bat, on day 15, we have this clip right here.
So then, what are your new names? This is ridiculous. You've done more for Jesus.
Did you catch that? Did you listen closely to that scene? So, James and John, they're talking to their parents, and their mom, Salome, asks what James and John's new names are, and they say that they are obviously shaking their heads in disagreement, and she says, "This is ridiculous. You've been here since the beginning," and she goes on to say some other things. So, this pretty much confirms that last week was filming the scene where Simon Peter's name is changed from Simon to Peter. Dallas Jenkins has already done this scene with Jonathan Roumie as Jesus. He did a little vignette for his church, Vertical Church Films, a number of years ago, back when him and Jonathan were doing little short films. So it's not surprising that he's going to tackle this scene again. Now, he always likes to put a twist on things and find a new angle in, so it's definitely not going to be play-by-play exactly what he already filmed. But he also did a vignette with Jonathan Roumie with Nicodemus, and that was kind of play-by-play, different setting, but kind of the same idea, so it wouldn't be surprising. Now, also this same day, we get this clip from Dallas Jenkins again. There's a rehearsal for a gigantic scene that The Chosen filmed this week, /scenes. There's other little bits in there. So today we're going to be trying to break down what exactly this scene is and what exactly all the little references are as to what exactly is happening here. So first of all, I would like to point out that in this rehearsal scene, Jonathan Roumie is seen kneeling down next to a dude who is on the steps to the synagogue. This is just a stand-in. This isn't the actor that's actually going to be there. But this may be Jesus doing a healing of some sort. And as we see later on day 17 from Dallas Jenkins, this is a clip I'll play for you here.
Cleanse the outside of the cup and of the dish, and then you eat and drink food that goes into a body that inside.
And Jesus in this clip is almost exactly reciting Luke 11 near the end of the chapter. In this scene, the context leading up to it is Jesus was speaking to people after healing a demon and an unclean spirit. Jesus is talking to the people, and a Pharisee asks Jesus to dine with him, and he sees that him and the disciples don't wash themselves properly. And then Jesus goes into this big rant about the Pharisees cleansing the outside dish, but eating food that goes into an unclean body. That's what Jonathan is saying in this clip right here. So definitely this week they filmed this scene from Luke 11 verse 37 and onward. I would say that's definitely a big part of what was filmed this week. Now, something else interesting that happened this week was that a character named Rivka is back this season, and you can see pictures posted by the actors. She was a smaller character from season 1, back in I Have Called You By Name, episode 1. She is like one of Lilith/Mary's friends when she was in a low point in her life. She was one of the people in the Red Quarter. Now, if we go back to the beginning of Luke chapter 11, starting in verse 14, Jesus casts a demon out of a mute man, and the mute man begins to speak. Jesus heals this guy, and then tons of people gather around, and then he starts preaching. This is what I believe this scene, at least, where Dallas showed this clip from, this scene is going to entail. Maybe the guy, the stand-in who is at the steps, is the mute guy who has the unclean spirit cast out of him. So Jesus casts this demon out and then begins to preach this big long thing. But right there in the middle of this section, it says at this point that a woman raised her voice from the crowd and said, "Blessed is the womb that bore you and the breasts at which you were nursed." So My theory is that maybe this woman, this random woman that just shouts out from the crowd, could be Rivka, because we see in these scenes Rivka is there in the crowd as Jesus is preaching and all these people are surrounding him. Now, I don't know if Jesus goes to Pharisee's house. We do have this clip from someone who was on the Chosen set. Jeez.
Oh, that's amazing.
Now, maybe Jesus is a really bad cook, and he cooked something, and all that smoke is coming out because he is bad at cooking. We've seen Jesus bad at playing sports. I'm just kidding. Obviously, that's not my theory. But this house could be a Pharisee house. I don't think this looks like it would be a Pharisee house, more like a civilian household. But maybe this is where Jesus dines with this person. And I don't know why there's a bunch of smoke coming out of it, but it looks like they were in someone's house, and that's maybe where they spent some of the day filming. So maybe that is the dine-in that Jesus had at some Pharisee's house. Now, which Pharisee asked Jesus to dine with him? I have no idea. It could be any one of these guys here. The one that looks like Jafar from Season 3, Episodes 5 and 6. I don't remember his name. You can let me down below in the comments. And also the other one played by Steve Sherman, I believe is the actor's name. So Jesus is rebuking these two Pharisees here as he's talking. You can see these pictures posted by the Chosen official account, where it seems to be having an intense face-off between Jesus and these two Pharisees. Now, not much was shown this week for this big scene. It was pretty secretive, so it's kind of hard to try to guess what exactly this big scene is. On the last day of filming for this week, Dallas Jenkins, the director, posted a clip of Quintus being in the crowd, as well as Gaius being in the crowd, and as you can see in this clip right here...
Background! Action!
Atticus and Gaius are in the crowd watching this situation. Now, another possible theory I have that I don't have as much concrete evidence for, but it could be an option, is that since we see Atticus and Gaius here in the crowd, and we know that this season Gaius is going to have his son healed by Jesus, he's going to be the centurion whose son is healed by Jesus, and since Gaius is there, I'm just throwing this theory out there. Don't kill me if you don't think it's right, or if you don't agree with it or something. You can be free to let me know down below in the comments. Now in Matthew 8, there's a very interesting story. So we have the faith of the centurion in Matthew 8, right after Jesus cleanses a leper, which I don't know how much of that's going to be involved in this scene. But Jesus comes to Capernaum, and then the centurion, who's going to be Gaius in this season, confronts Jesus and asks him to heal his son, and Jesus says, "Go, your son will be healed." But he says to the crowds that are around him, "Never have I seen faith like I've seen in this man here in all of Israel." I'm not saying that this scene in particular will be Gaius' son being healed. I mean, I just don't know if they'd film that this early in the season, since it's probably not going to be later until I don't know, maybe episode 6 or something. It could definitely be here early in the season, because we know that this is pretty soon after the feeding of the 5,000 that this happens. Now in Matthew 8, right after Jesus heals the centurion's son, he goes and heals Peter's mom, which we already saw in season 1, so I know that's not going to be a part of it. But if you look at the next section, in the ESV, it's called The Cost of Following Jesus. Now the reason I included this theory, and the reason why I mentioned the centurion's son and the centurion's faith being a part of this scene, is because it might not necessarily have to do with Gaius asking Jesus to heal his son, even though we know that Gaius is going to be a pretty big part of this scene. It wouldn't surprise me if he is involved somehow. But we do know that the next section is called The Cost of Following Jesus, and there's a really peculiar story. Now in this section, The Cost of Following Jesus, a scribe comes up to Jesus and says, "Teacher, I will follow you anywhere," and then Jesus talks about foxes and holes. Okay, so this section, The Cost of Following Jesus, I'm sure there's a lot of theological context to this, but I'm mentioning this because we know that the theme of Season 4 is going to be the cost of discipleship. So looking at this passage and noticing the centurion's faith and noticing the crowds following Jesus, which could very, very well be involved in this scene, and we know that they're condensing storylines and, adding stuff in and doing all this different stuff. So since this is such a big, complicated scene, now apparently there's going to be stunt coordinators as well for this scene, which I have no idea what kind of stunts would be involved. I honestly have no idea what that could possibly be. You can feel free to let me know down below in the comments. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of condensing of this storyline with Gaius that's now confirmed by the director to come to a close this season. And with this section, the cost of following Jesus, which we know is the theme of season 4, the cost of discipleship. Now this little section, I believe the basic summary is leave all of your current stuff behind and embrace the new. So whoever Jesus is talking to, one of the disciples wanted to bury his father, and Jesus said, follow me and leave the dead to bury their own dead. But I wouldn't be surprised if this somehow ties into this scene. Now again, as we know that Quintus shows up in this scene, which is definitely going to be very interesting, and I'm excited to see that. But we also have this clip right here.
Round. Action.
Where if you don't recognize who that guy is, this is the little snitch from season 3, episode 5, who told on Veronica when she was trying to do her business, and this guy just keeps butting in. So Mr. Tattletale's back, and he's going to be doing some more tattle and tailing, because he's seen rushing off very urgently, probably going to tell some high official about what's going on in this scene here. He can never seem to give it a rest, can he? We have pictures posted from Jonathan Rumi, Jordan Ross, all these other things. There's so many people. There's crane shots, as you can see in this clip right here. There's so much happening in this scene, and quite frankly, it's a lot to take in and a lot to process and a lot for me to, in one video, just share with you and say these are my definitive thoughts. So in this video, I very much urge you, everyone go and study, everyone do the detective work, and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, because I want to know what you guys' theories are, and together we will solve this mystery and try to find out what's happening in The Chosen Season 4 before the episode releases and what exactly is going to be happening here. Now, one other minor piece of information I do want to note. Dallas Jenkins posted this picture of Mary and Thomas from the first week of filming where they're sitting on the docks, and he says that this is going to happen in episode 2. So even on the first week of filming, they were filming stuff for episode 2. So they're not filming 100% in sequential order, which means that whatever this scene is could possibly have Gaius' son in the mix, because who knows, it might be like the midpoint of the season, doesn't exactly have to be near the finale, because we all know what the finale is going to be. If you haven't heard, it's going to be the death and resurrection of Lazarus. So this scene could very well be Gaius' son being healed, and I couldn't be happier and more excited to see that scene come to life, because that's going to be such an impactful moment, because it's been built up since the first season of the show. So there you have it. There's pretty much everything that I gathered from this week of filming. If I missed anything or if I forgot to mention something, please feel free to let me know down below in the comments. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts, as I said before. And again, there's a lot here for me, myself, just to alone go out there and put this information out and tell all you guys. So if you have any thoughts, be sure to let me know, and we'll solve this mystery together, like I said before. I really, really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like. And if you agree that Simon's tunic is too short, then I would suggest hitting that subscribe button. And make sure to turn on all notifications to make sure that Shahar gets a haircut every once in a while. And without further ado, I will see you guys in my next video. People must know.